Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's Alyssa. So we're gonna do something I haven't done in a while, and I'm gonna try to get better at doing it this year, but it's hard because I do read so many books, so I'm gonna try to do this really quickly. I'm here for my January wrap up, but like I said, I read like 24, 25 books, I'll tell you exactly in a second, this month, and it's really hard when you read that many books to go through them all, so we're gonna do this really fast. This is my random stack. I'm at a table, but it's like above my head. So, and then there's a bunch of stuff that isn't even in this stack because I don't have everything physically. So we're gonna try to go through this as quickly as possible and not knock over all these books. But this is where the book journal comes in handy, so I can do this succinctly, I hope. We'll talk about the elephant in the room, that I hurt myself. I have a tendonitis through here that happened while I was working. It's better, but it's not perfect yet. I got 1 cortisone shot. So I tried to do my hair today. I got really far without the brace, and then it started to really hurt. So I put the brace back on, and so this is where we're at. This is as good as we're gonna get. I'm gonna film 2 videos like this. I'm gonna look exactly the same in both of them. I don't care. It's too much effort to look pretty. So, or change. But anyway, before we jump into everything I read in January, just if you feel so inclined, I would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe to the channel. We're really trying to get to 1,000 subs this year. We're at like 400 and something, so it would be super duper great if we could get there. And I really appreciate everybody who is here. If you're new, say hi, yada yada yada. Let's jump into it. Let me move this stuff. Okay, so in January, I read 24 books, and I'm gonna quickly go through all of them as best as I can. I did do call pile for every single one of these. I guess I'm just gonna give you my star rating, and if there's anything I feel like I need to tell you about it, I will. But to get through 24 and to not have this be like an hour long, we're just gonna, this is a quick little wrap up. If you've read any of these and you have thoughts, comments, things in general you'd like to say, you want me to know, tell me below. I'd love to hear how you feel about the book, or whether or not you hate it, love it, whatever it is, just drop it down below. Anyway, so we start with a book I don't have on hand right here, and that was Dead of Winter, which is a book I was trying to finish in 2020, but I didn't end up finishing it because December was pretty awful. But it's the 3rd book in the Arcana series, or Arcana Chronicles, and it was really good. It's very cheesy paranormal, like CW, like old CW show, but it's cool. It's like it's like every so many years they major arcana cards come to life, and they're these children and they fight, and like whoever wins immortality for some period of time until the wars start again, and then they fight. And there's a love triangle, and like the current winner is in love with this girl, and then because that's actually his, I'm gonna spoil it, but anyway, so there's a love triangle. We're in the 3rd book. There's so much, I don't want to spoil everything, but basically lots of tension, lots of cliffhangers. I really enjoyed this one. 4 stars. I ordered the next 2. I think there's 1 more coming that has not been published yet, but I will get back to that series soon. It's definitely a guilty pleasure kind of read that I enjoyed. Next, I have Home Before Dark, which was this color your read along thing that I'm doing this year, where every month I get this prompt that's to pick a color and a genre and find a book that fits it. So this January's was green and thriller, so I figured I'd read this Riley Sager that everybody loves. I thought it was really good. I just I gave it 4 stars. It's fine. There's nothing really wrong with it. It just also isn't special, so I'm not like madly in love with it, but like it was fine. Like it was all right. If you liked Ruth Ware's Turn the Key, you'll like this. If you like Riley Sager, you'll like this. If you just like a reasonably predictable thriller, you'll like this. It didn't blow my socks off, but it was thoroughly enjoyable from beginning to end. It did what it was supposed to do. I'm not going to complain about it. One of my goals for the year was to read the Throne of Glass series. So I know there's a lot of contention as to where you start, whether you start with Throne of Glass or you start with Assassin's Blade. I just went with Assassin's Blade, which is the collection of novellas about Selena. I enjoyed this, and I have a sneaking suspicion I'm going to like this series better than ACOTAR, but we're gonna find out because next month I read Throne of Glass. Again, I gave this 4 stars. I give a lot of things 4 stars that I probably would have given 5 stars before I started doing Compile. So this was good. I really liked having some backstory into this character. I don't know anything about her yet, but we'll find out a little bit more as we go along. But it was a nice introduction to the world of Throne of Glass, and I did enjoy that. The next thing I read was In the Penalty Box, which is a really sweet teenage romance that's centered around hockey. I didn't know there was this whole world of romance that's hockey. I know there's sport. I guess I kind of knew, but I haven't dabbled in it. This whole sports romance thing, and specifically hockey. I really enjoyed it. Thank you again to Entangled Teen for sending me this beautiful finished copy. I gave this 4 stars. I just thought it was very sweet. I thought it also dealt with one of the things I really like about romance is when they actually deal with some bigger topics. So they dealt with things like death of a parent, alcoholism in a parent, having your dreams crushed and having to rebuild them, there's a lot that's actually crammed in this little sweet romance. So you get a little bit more than you think going in. But I really enjoyed it. The one thing I think is really funny though is that if there's this whole genre of hockey romance, and they really never talk about the smell. Hockey players smell disgusting. I mean, I guess I know why, because it's not a romance if I'm like, hey, you smell disgusting. But hockey players smell gross. I feel like you can't gloss over that. They smell disgusting. The next thing, I saw the Entangled Teen. I do a lot of work with Entangled Teen. I love them so much. They're actually a really great company to work with. But they sent me over my first ever PR package, and it was direct from a publisher, and it was Crown of Bones, which is this new A.K. Wilder series, and this was surprisingly good, especially because it has mermaids, and I think as most of us know, mermaid stories are really hard to do, and to do them well. This I think was my first 5-star read of the month, and I had a few others, but this is my first 5-star read of the month. This book blew me away. I absolutely loved it. There's killer mermaids, there's magical creatures, there's a war brewing, there's lots of secrets. You've got this really, really amazing badass female character. It's so good. It's so stinking good. I liked the magic system. I highly recommend. I need a hardcover of this. It's just, please, Entangled Teen, can you send me the second one, please? That's my bag, because I don't want to miss. After that, I did finish our book club pick for the month, our TBR Lowdown book club pick. If you don't know, there are myself and a couple of my friends run a diverse reads book club called TBR Lowdown. I'll leave a link down below if you want to check it out. This month we read Feel Like Step After. We do a live show at the end of every month. So I tend to do reading vlogs for these. So there's a reading vlog for this and a discussion already on my channel. So I'm not going to say too much about this, but definitely 5 stars. Lots of great discussion about what it's like to be trans, a trans teen. It's really, 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 really wonderful. So check it out if you're looking for that kind of book. I listened to an audiobook, which is The History of My Brief Body, which I cannot remember the name of the author. Oh, it's Billy Ray Belcourt, and it's about his life being a gay man and also a First Nations person in Canada. And it was incredibly moving and really beautifully written. I feel like we become very US centric when you're from the US, and I think it's very easy for us to forget that there are other peoples, one in the world and two, who have similar things that are happening here. There's we have our own brand of being racist assholes, but it happens in a lot of other places, and those people are valid, those experiences are valid, those things need to be heard and learned. And this went beyond just First Nations sort of prejudice, but you also have homophobia. This is kind of happening during a little bit of not the AIDS epidemic, but having the prophylactic for exposure and some of the stigma that can go around going into a clinic and being like, I've had this experience, and how people maybe don't want to even like give you the medication that is available because they're sort of prejudiced against you, because they kind of don't feel like the healthcare system and its prejudices against you, which you see a lot in different kinds of racism and just discrimination. It's crazy how much that's actually prevalent in things that you feel like shouldn't have biases like that, and they do, and it's ridiculous. We could go on a long rant about a lot of these things, but it's very short, which does not detract from how good it is. And if you have a chance to read it or listen to it, I had a copy from Libro that I got a while back as an ALC, and I just needed something to listen to. I popped it on and it was fantastic. So that was a history of my brief body, and I would definitely recommend that memoir. I feel like I'm gonna have to adjust the audio on this because, per usual, I'm filming Jesus' home. I feel awkward talking knowing he's upstairs, secret listening. He's not listening, he's watching a movie or something, but I feel like he's secret listening, and so here we are. Anyway, secret listening is not a thing, Alyssa. The next book I have here on my list, number 8, is The Heiress, which is this really fantastic, and I guess I've seen some mixed reviews on this, but I thought it was a fantastic look at the life of Anne de Bourgh, who is Catherine de Bourgh's daughter in Pride and Prejudice, and what her life could have been. This imagining of this character that doesn't get enough. She deserves a story, like she deserves more. And there's a whole discussion of like overuse of laudanum, sexuality, female independence, gaining your independence, breaking free from the people that are I don't want to say oppressing, that sounds, but like suppressing you and keeping you where you're at. It's actually, I thought this was really beautiful. It's beautifully written. I loved this book. That's all I'm gonna say. 5 stars. Loved it. Loved it. Next up we had, this is where I've already written a whole review of this, and I kind of want to take a star off already, but Ready Player One I listened to, and I had been eagerly awaiting this book, and I've been meaning to pick it up, and I've had it on my wish list, yada yada yada. My library hold came in and I listened to it, and you can read my Instagram review if you want, but the long and the short of it is that I was incredibly disappointed. I really did enjoy a lot of the 80s references because I'm an old lady, and they made me laugh, or they felt nostalgic and they felt good, but there were a lot of other things that just didn't work for me. There was just way too much info dumping. And what I realized is I don't like info dumping if it's done first person and it's done conveniently. There was too many parts of the story were too convenient. Too much of this, the main character just telling you something over and over again. Like, I don't want to live in your head all the time. Sadly, this was not for me. It started off so good, and by the end of it, I was angry that I hadn't put the time into reading it. So for some reason, I gave this 3 stars. The more I think about it, I want to make it 2, but we'll stick with 3. That's fine. We're gonna move on. And the next thing I read was this book that Forge sent me, which is Waiting for the Night Song, which is kind of a thriller. I'm trying to think about how I decide this. It's kind of like an ecological thriller. I gave it 3 stars. It is well written. There is a lot of discussion about like secrets we keep, racism, climate change. It's pretty. It's just, at some point it's kind of forgettable. Like, I didn't even like, write enough about it. There's nothing really here but a rating, and I don't know. I just don't know. Like, it's fine. It's a good book. Like, I feel like this is if you're going through the airport and you don't have a book anymore and you want a book, or you forgot your book, or you need a book for the beach or whatever, like, this is your airplane book that you picked up at Hudson News because you needed something. And that is maybe not the best review of a book. Like, it'll get you to your destination, but you're gonna leave it for the next person on the plane. Anyway, the next thing I read was, was Sasha Masha, which again I listened to on Libro. And Sasha Masha, I hope I wrote something down for Sasha Masha, because I feel like I didn't write anything down for Sasha Masha. Oh, I don't even know what I gave Sasha Masha. Did I really not write anything for Sasha Masha? I'm failing at my own system. But Sasha Masha is basically a story about, it's a YA story about a boy who figures out that he is not just like your regular old street boy. He realizes his true identity. He wants to be Sasha Masha. He enjoys dressing up as like in female clothes. So it's his journey through figuring out who he is and expressing it to his friends and family. It's really good. I wish I'd written something down. Definitely like 4 or 5-star read, something like that. I'll put it up somewhere, but it was really good. I can't believe I didn't write it down in my journal. We're gonna go back, we're gonna fix that, because that was definitely I listened to it while I was not home, and it's a very short audiobook, and I definitely finished it and never wrote anything about it. See, I'm such a bad booktuber. This thing's already like 20 minutes long. Okay, so the next thing I read was The Wife Upstairs, which is this thriller that's sort of based in Jane Eyre. It's a retelling of Jane Eyre as a thriller. It was, the writing is very good. I would like to read more from Rachel Hawkins. I just don't think this is the book for me. It just didn't do it for me. But I can't, gave it 3 stars. I can't falter the writing. This didn't work for me. It just didn't work. 3 stars, it was fine. I know there's some people that really like it. I think I've just read too many thrillers and it just isn't knocking my socks off. So the next thing I read was The Office of Historical Corrections, which again I listened to. I had a Libro copy, and this is a collection of short stories that all sort of focus around race, America, the human condition, things like that. There's a lot about grief and apologies, and it's just really well done. And I think it's the first short story collection I've read since high school, and I was surprised at how much I really enjoyed it, especially the last, which is more of it's like short stories and a novella. The novella at the end is really good, and it talks about passing, which is a topic that we talked a lot about when I took Harlem Renaissance class. But passing is something that I would like to read more stories about passing, because I feel like it's a very interesting concept, especially if you have somebody deep in your ancestry who's passed as white to escape, you know, the racism. And one, you have the stories that are like the fear of ever being caught. Then like, what do you do later when you find out that like, if you're like some bigoted jerk, what do you do if you find out that you actually have like your grandma was actually a black lady, but she just looked white? You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much there to unpack that I would love to dive into like a little rabbit hole of that kind of literature, because I find it a really interesting topic. So if anybody has any good stories, either nonfiction or fiction, around the idea of passing, I would love that. And I gave that 5 stars. That was fantastic. The next thing I read, this is why we have to do this super fast, because there's too many things. The next thing I read was Legendborn, which my friend sent me for my birthday this year, and I love this. This is like Camelot meets Black Girl Magic, and it's fantastic. I loved this. I loved it. I have no complaints about this book. It is just super duper. It hit all of the right spots for me. I could not put this down. I had to stop. I couldn't even make this my car book, like, because I wanted to be here, like looking at it, listening to it, like smelling it. Like, I wanted to be in it. I love this book so much. Clearly this is a 5-star read. Like, need I say more? I love Legendborn. My good friend Naomi and fellow TBR Lowdown host sent me a copy of Such a Fun Age, and I finally read this, because she sent it to me, and now I finally understand the hype. This book was so good. How is this a debut? It's amazing. First of all, that kid, is the best and hilarious, and definitely has, I feel like she's on the spectrum somewhere, and I feel like her babysitter, Amira, is the only one who really truly understands her, which is so sad. But I loved watching just this nonsense happening around Amira, while Amira is supposed to be like this person who doesn't have her shit together, and just thinking how much like everybody else doesn't really have their shit together. And I loved it. I loved the story. I loved the way it dealt with things like what it means to be a 20-year-old and not have your life sorted out, what it means to be, you know, Black in America, what it means, like, you know, you have this ex-couple that have two different things, where like one's trying to seem so, I'm not racist, even though, but like, I know you're the help, but you're not the help. And then the other one's like, I don't even know how to explain this without ruining the book, but the other one's like, it seems like he almost fetishizes like anybody who's non-white and only dates non-whites, even though he's like this giant ginger or something like that. Like, he's so white, but it's really good. It is brilliantly written. It is really, really good. I want to save that kid from her life, because without Amira, I don't think anybody understands her. But 5 stars. Awesome. I read the next thing on here. I'm not gonna talk about this too much. It's Dark Matter, 2 stars. I think Recursion is better than Dark Matter. I feel like Blake Crouch is a one-trick pony. I'm gonna piss somebody off with this. I feel like he's a one-trick pony with these repetitive storylines where you just get stuck in this time loop. There's always some sort of time loop like element to it. You could have done so much with this story, and I just feel like you could have brought me to some place where you absolutely blew my mind, and you just wrapped it up in this cheesy like nonsense. No, take risks, dude. Don't do what you did. Take some risks. 2 stars. Fine. I read A Man Called Uva, and I love this book. This is my first Frederick Bachman, and I get it. Like, I get it now. I just get it. I love Uva. I want someone to love me this much as he loved his wife. I love watching him reflect on his life. I love watching him just be this grumpy, surly old man who actually does care about people, but he's just stunted. Oh, it's just, like, he's emotionally stunted, but he's not. Oh, I get it. 5 stars. Read it if you haven't. I will be reading Beartown soon, because I have that. I might listen to Anxious People. I'm gonna dive down a rabbit hole of Frederick Bachman soon. We're getting near the end. I read 3 Women by not Roxane Gray, because for some reason this cover and Bad Feminist seemed to be the same in my head, so I just assumed this was, or is it Gray or Gay? Roxane Gay, right? It's not Roxane. It feels like all this time it's been sitting on my shelf and I just assumed it was Roxane Gay, because the covers are so similar. Publishers, don't do that. My poor brain can't handle it. But anyway, this just follows, so a nonfiction story that follows 3 different women while they discuss their like sexuality, essentially. It's kind of like Sex and the City meets the Kinsey Report, and it was really fascinating and interesting, and there's pieces of each woman that you can relate to, and some of them do more taboo things than others, depending on like where you draw the line at taboo. So some of it may be more shocking than other things, but it was really good. My friend Maggie recommended it. I really enjoyed it. The next thing I did is I listened to Hidden Valley Road, which again, my friend Maggie and President Obama didn't directly recommend it to me. He didn't, but he recommended it to the world, and my friend Maggie also recommended it to me. I'm not giving any of my nonfiction star ratings. That's something I should say here. I'm just, that section's out of my journal. It's just my thoughts on the book. I don't like rating nonfiction books. But anyway, Hidden Valley Road, which is the story of a family growing up in the 50s where they had 12 siblings, and something like 5 or 6 of the sons, there were 10 sons and 2 daughters, and like 5 or 6 of the sons had schizophrenia, or bipolar disorder. And so they use this family to, one, discuss their history and then draw in different research and understandings of schizophrenia, treatment of mental illness, how mental illness gets looked at, what people do. It's fascinating story between the like human aspect of it with this family, and also just the scientific stuff that's going on behind the scenes, and some of the science, the studies that they discussed, and the things that they've referenced in terms of research. Loved it. So good. I need a hard copy for my little collection. The next thing is Blood and Honor Fae Rising, which is a indie fantasy. It's kind of new adulty. It's not quite YA. It's fine. I enjoyed it. I want to see where it ends. I think I gave it 3 stars. It's all right. Like, I got no complaints in general. Well, that's not true. I have one complaint. There's this one passage in the very beginning. Like, maybe it's on page 2. And I'm gonna read it to you because I still don't understand why it exists. And it's never, these people have never been referred to again. The bulk of the story is about lesser fae rising up against the high fae, and the prejudice that's just inherent in the fae kingdom. So there's a lot of like, things aren't like, you know, like, it's very anti-discrimination, except for on page 2 with this. And this, I don't know what to do with this. I looked into the corner where a group of insufferable brownies sat huddled together. Troublemakers. We had a brownie move into our home several years ago, and he wouldn't leave, no matter how much or how often we offended him. I hated brownies. I'm skipping some things. I'd rather have hung out with a Bogart, and I had half a mind to interrupt whatever tomfoolery they were scheming, but I didn't want any of them to follow me home. I took out like one little bit about like things they've done to, you know, like tricks they've played. They've never talked about brownies again. They never mention this again, at least in this book. I don't know if brownies is a mythical creature that I'm just not aware of. Are they like borrowers? But like, I don't know what to do with that paragraph. Like, that paragraph could be removed from this entire book and would not have given me any pause. I wouldn't have missed it. And you could have continued with your whole story about like discrimination within the Fae world and people rising up and yada, yada, yada. So I don't know. Somebody please explain it to me. I'm still kind of hung up on it because I can't stop thinking about it. There's other things that I really liked about this book, but I keep thinking about that one passage on page 2. And if I hadn't been doing a book tour, I probably would have stopped reading there and been like, that's it, because I'm just gonna leave that for you guys to tell me what you think. We're at 30 fucking minutes. Okay. We're almost done. 4 more. I read To Whatever N, which is, I had as an e-book from Entangled. And this was not the book that I thought it was going to be. And I was pleasantly surprised by this book. 4 stars. And I thought it was going to be more of a romance because it's about, with like a little bit of like light magical realism, because the idea is that the lady has this curse where she touches people and she can see how their relationships end. And she touches this guy and finds out, she runs into, that he's gonna fall in love with her, but he's also gonna die. And so she's never been able to change the future before, and so she's desperate to try to change the future because she doesn't want this guy to die, yada yada yada. But then it actually takes a little bit of a turn. That's like the summary. But then as you're reading it, you realize that there's actually this like twist in that it's actually a sort of more like a romance thriller, which I really, really enjoyed. This was just a fun read. Good like in-between reading like a bunch of nonfictions and some other stuff. It was just a nice, surprising read, and I really just enjoyed it. I read the bonus book for the book club, which was The Dragon Republic, which I have sort of a reading log film for it, but I've never compiled it, and I don't know if I ever will. I might get lazy. But I gave this, what did I even give this? 4 stars. I mean, Rin is coming into her own, which I really like. There's some duplicity going on. I still think Katai is amazing. I feel like Rin should just be like, Katai, you're my boy. I know that they're like close, but you've got all this history coming out. It's such a brilliant way to look at Chinese history. It's really good. I don't want to say too much because I will spoil either book since this is the second in a series. But it did definitely start off a lot slower than the first one, and it's a lot more political and battle focused, especially the first 2/3 of the book. The last third was a lot better, moved faster. So if you don't like, in general for this series, if you don't like your fantasy to be filled with battle scenes, and lots of action, you might not like this as much as some other things. You might still like it, but it might be harder for you to get through because I know some people find those scenes boring. I particularly enjoy it, so this was good. Moving on to the third one. This stack is gonna fall over at some point and it's going to be horrible. 2 more. I read The Anti-Relationship Year by Katie Wismer, which she is a booktuber. She's on Kate's Book Date. And I absolutely love her writing. I love watching her grow as a writer. And so I got an arc of this. This is her next book coming out, I think in the spring, maybe March, I think. I can't remember. But I got this arc and I could not stop reading it. It is like new adult contemporary romance. It's a companion to her other book, The Anti-Virginity Pact. And it's like, instead of being in high school, it's in college, and it's following Joanna, who's the main character in the other book's best friend. You follow Joanna in college, and it goes back and forth between 2 different timelines and this like traumatic event in her life in the beginning of college and then the end of college. It is so well done. I loved it. I literally devoured it, like easy peasy, 5 stars. I loved it. And I'm in love with Miller. That is all. So look for that. I will try to put a pre-order link down below if I can remember to do that, because pre-order yourself a copy. Like, it's really good. It's a really good book. I hope that she makes a lot of money off of it because this girl's talented. Anywho, the last thing I read for the month, really at the end, is Aurora Burning. Yeah, that's all I got. I read Aurora Burning. Let's get out of here. No, I read Aurora Burning by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I am not sure how I feel, just like in general, because that's how I feel with most Jay Kristoff books, because I'm when you're in the middle of them, because you're like, I know I'm gonna get hurt. I know I'm gonna get hurt. But the writing is really good. I like this story better. I like that the team is coming into their own. I don't want to say too much, but this is the second in the Aurora cycle, and the team is just coming together. There's new developments, there's secrets that get revealed, there's twists, there's turns, there's love, which always makes me nervous because he's gonna kill somebody and hurt me. But it was a great ride. I love Cal. 4 stars. I want the third one, and I want to not have my heart broken. So that's where we're at. So those are the 24 books I read in January. If you've actually sat through almost, I don't even know how long of a video once I edited it down, but filming we're at 37 minutes. Thank you so very much. I'd love for you to leave down below if you've made it this far. Killer Mermaids. That way I know that you've made it this far, that you hung out with me for this whole thing. It just lets me know who's here. And I really appreciate you guys watching this far, and it allows me to stop and say thank you to you for watching my whole video. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'm also going to be doing my February TBR Shop Your Shelves thing, hopefuls, that kind of list. So I don't know which one's going up first, whichever one I feel like editing first, probably the TBR, but thank you again for watching. If I look the same in the next video, you know why, because I'm not changing, because right, I'm going. Goodbye.
So just sit with me, talking to the night until the morning, building chemistry. I don't think I ever wanna go come closer next to me. Trying to find another way to say this, but I think we were meant to be.